Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise before you today to ask you to oppose House Bill 1464. There are a number of dangerous and harmful provisions in this bill, but I'm going to focus on one that sticks out to me especially that is very concerning. House Bill 1464 seeks to give the GBI sweeping new powers over our elections in this state. The use and threat of law enforcement intervention related to elections isn't something that is new and is not conjecture, and that the involvement of law enforcement can and has been used to intimidate voters, especially those voters of color. Now, you may think that is not the case, but for the constituents that I represent, that is very much a reality because they have lived through it. If you don't believe me, I encourage you to go talk to the gentlewoman from the 165th House District who has led civil rights demonstrations all over this state, and I'm sure you can have a conversation with her and she can educate you and school you. By giving the GBI, the state's highest law enforcement agency, original jurisdiction over election investigations, members of the majority party are doubling down on voter suppression. Now, some would have you believe that this is not the case, but this practice dates back not only to the Jim Crow era and beyond, but under this chapter, this is another attack on the right to vote. I bet there's an even more example, more recent today, that I'm going to talk about, and today I'm going to tell you a story that goes just back 12 years and took place in a county named, like so many counties in our state, after an ardent and violent racist in Brooks County, Georgia. So what happened in Brooks County in 2010 is the perfect illustration of how the majority party has used law enforcement to suppress and intimidate black officials and voters, and it's a perfect illustration of the majority party's motives with House Bill 1464 and giving the GBI sweeping new authorities over our elections. In 2010, we saw a blatant act of voter suppression and intimidation after 3 black women got elected to the Brooks County School Board, and their election flipped the school board from majority white to majority black. And after their elections, they were arrested. 12 black people in total were arrested under the direction of the Secretary of State, who was Brian Kemp at the time, and these 3 women and 9 of their allies and friends were all arrested, and they were charged with 120 counts of voter fraud. And what truly was their crime? As far as I know, it's not a crime for black people to get elected to office and to make their voices heard at the ballot box, although in this state it might seem hard sometimes. The election of these black community members and educators to the Brooks County School Board did not break any laws, but it upset the power structure that existed in Brooks County, which was enough motivation for the Secretary of State and state officials to send the GBI to investigate it, and it was even more motivation for the DA at the time to vow to prosecute these individuals even without hearing any evidence or having any hard evidence of any wrongdoing. Even after devoting extensive resources to this quote-unquote investigation, all the charges were dropped. I'd like to make a juxtaposition here that these folks were arrested in Brooks County quicker than the folks who had killed Ahmaud Arbery were arrested and prosecuted in Glenn County, Georgia. But the one thing about this case of extreme voter suppression that sticks with me are the words of the GBI director at the time. He said, and I quote, "It's really extraordinary that the GBI would conduct voter fraud investigations," end quote. The GBI conducting voter fraud investigations is extraordinary. Let that sink in. It's unusual, it's remarkable, it's unbelievable. So why is the majority party trying to pass a bill that would give the GBI original jurisdiction to do just that? Well, the majority party will say it's all about preventing voter fraud, and that's exactly what Brian Kemp and others would like to say happened in 2010 in Brooks County. But it's just not the fact. This provision in House Bill 1464 will be used to intimidate Georgia voters and election workers. It's also that this is unnecessary. The State Election Board already has the power to investigate alleged violations of our election laws under OCGA 21-2-31. We very clearly do not need this bill. My colleagues in the majority party and in the minority party agree that our most recent elections have been the safest and the most secure elections we've ever had in this state. So I ask the question today, why are we doing this? The people of our state have so many important needs, and we as the legislative body have the power with the stroke of a pen to change the lives of countless Georgians for the better, but instead we're using them during this time to pass a harmful and unnecessary voter suppression bill. But we all know the truth. We're wasting our time on this bill. The truth is that after record turnout amongst voters of colors that flipped Georgia blue and sent Senators Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff to D.C., we see that folks in the majority party are doing exactly what they've done before, using any means necessary to hold on to power. And we all know that why we're seeing another bill attacking our election system and our election workers in the state of Georgia. It has nothing to do with election integrity or security. This bill is about the majority party legislating on the lie, the big lie. But I'll leave you with this as I close. Something we've all heard before, and my grandmother used to say this: a lie don't care who tell it. So I'm asking each of you to stand on the side of truth, and the truth is this bill is unnecessary and it's dangerous and egregious. And I'm asking each of you to please vote no on House Bill 1464 so we can focus on bringing real solutions to the real problems that Georgians face every